Until 50 years ago, they did not even boil their food because the concept of cooking was alien to them.
Bang, listen to that. 50 years ago, they didn't cook their food whatsoever. They did not cook at all. Obviously, they had fire. They used it for warmth, but they didn't cook any of their food.
Was it because we came with gifts rather than guns?
Gifts, again, going to be introducing huge problems to these people, right? Like, they don't understand that they're literally the ones killing these people. We're literally giving them disease in the form of philanthropy, in the form of gifts. We're literally killing these people. What's up, guys? We're going to check out this old documentary on primitive people. I believe we're off the coast of India here. They look at a few tribes, so it should be a really interesting video. We'll dive in, see what we can learn about their primitive lifestyle and also how we have adulterated their lifestyle. We'll learn about what the gold standard is, primitive movement patterns, lifestyle habits, etc., food habits, medicine habits, how they understand things psychologically and spiritually as well. Should be a really, really great video. First part of the video is not in English, so we're going to skip ahead a little bit here.
Nicobar.
Okay, we can see that here are the islands, Nicobar's Islands, Andaman's Islands, right off the coast of India here. So pretty small islands, pretty isolated peoples. Hopefully we get a pretty good understanding of their primitive lifestyles.
Port Blair में है। उन्होंने 1900 के बाद पोर्ट ब्लेयर की
So obviously we get a glimpse of the technology. This is the 70s. There's been plastic, there's pharmaceuticals, there's tons of toxic chemicals. Maybe one of the most toxic times to live in was end of the 1800s until now. But again, still here, there was not very much regulation when it came to the uses of plastics and metals and pharmaceuticals and other products.
However, there are still many islands of which little is known, many islands yet to be explored. It was in search of the people of these remote islands that our expedition set out from Port Blair. Our first destination was the island of Choura, unmarked on most maps. Choura is often called the devil's abode, and the people here are highly superstitious. They are great believers in magic and have a number of totems whose functions we do not quite know.
Very clearly, right off the bat, we can understand that, they're already trying to demonize the peoples. That's been happening for a very long time at this point. The language used I find is really interesting. These were films that were shown in schools, right, to really put away this way of life. And the reason being was that these people were connected with nature, they were sovereign, they didn't need reliance on government, they didn't need the modern systems to survive. So truly these people were just taking up space in the eyes of the powers that shouldn't be.
The people of Choura do not generally bury their dead. Although the body is exposed to the elements, the soul sails away in a boat on its eternal journey. The people of Choura are...
First thing that sticks out is that's obviously not a native piece of clothing or covering. So that sticks out as kind of a red flag right away, that these aren't going to be the gold standard primitive people.
On its eternal journey. The people of Choura are good
Her clothing as well, of course.
makers of boats, and they are famous in the neighboring islands for their pottery. Most Nicobaris believe that for all ceremonial purposes, food should be cooked in Choura pots.
Again, a great connection to the food that we're consuming. Many people talk cooked versus raw. Obviously, raw is going to be the best for healing, and most, if not all, indigenous primitive tribes consumed some sort of raw food and used raw food as medicine. Now, these individuals, although they might not be the gold standard, as we could tell by their clothing, they have been introduced to modernity in some capacity. Still, the connection to the food, when you cook in a clay pot that you fire yourself with local clay, we're still getting that great connection to the land. So these individuals consumed cooked food but still in this modern world to heal, raw is always going to be the best. A raw animal-based diet, there's a reason why people thrive more on a raw animal-based diet than they do on any other diet. Does that mean that you cannot consume cooked food and be healthy? It's not, I wouldn't go so far to say that. You can consume it in balance, but understanding, some of the habits that they use were really important to achieving this wholeness and balance. We understand that all that is natural is not necessarily healthy, but all that is synthetic is a toxicity, right? And so things that are natural out of balance are also a toxicity. So even cooked food out of balance, right? And obviously all the synthetics that we're burdened with, but still using our modern pots and pans, even the leaching of metals from cast iron, stainless steel, there is going to be some metal leaching when we cook in these things. Obviously Teflon, that's a given that these are problematic, but we overlook sort of the problems that arise when we don't cook traditionally, like over the fire, like in pots, clay pots that we fire ourselves with local clay, right? So these are some of the things. Even the indigenous here, they cooked in wood pots. They called them wo. I'm pretty sure that's the name. And they would take literally the stump of a tree and they would burn out a big thing, and that's how they would make their stews and their more liquid type of meals. Obviously consuming nose to tail. So these were some of the important things. Again, connecting back to nature. This is exactly what I'm talking about when I mean connect with nature, and this is how we achieve health. These are the things that are overlooked when we study sort of anthropology on the surface level. We don't dive deeper into their movement habits, their cooking habits. We just look at diet, which is a reduction.
Although the islanders are hardworking and clever,
Obviously, this is not a modern pig either. People claim all the time, oh, pork is so bad for you, you cannot eat pork. Primitive people around the world ate pork, but they ate wild boar, right? And so if you are going to consume, pork that's raised on a farm, it's not necessarily problematic, but we need to ensure that the boar is living in accordance with their natural existence as well, right? Like they need to be able to deroot vegetation. They need to be free, they need to be consuming certain things in their environment. They can't just be eating food that has a bunch of plastic in it, a bunch of processed food. They need to be in the natural environment. So regenerative, biodynamic farming, anything that mimics nature is going to be ideal. So diversity is important. Having all the pigs in one square is not ideal, right? We want diversity in our food systems. So pork is not inherently bad. And if you're worried about parasites, go and check out The Truth About Parasites. It's an ebook. It's super cheap. You can learn the entire truth about parasites start to finish. They do not cause disease in any capacity. And if pork has parasites in it, it is because the pig, was not living an ideal lifestyle, right? So that's a very important thing to understand. Obviously, if you want to go deeper, I got about 10 lectures in the Beyond Terrain Academy on parasites. You get access to the ebook as well and so much more. Learn the truth about natural healing and wellness in the academy. So make sure you go check that out. It's a great bang for your buck. All the links will obviously be down below.
they're nevertheless at the mercy of their primitive beliefs. The blood
Raw blood, a staple in every single indigenous diet. Again, these things are overlooked completely.
from a pig's tail, mixed with some medicinal herbs, is supposed to cure ailments of the chest and the stomach.
So obviously we're using raw blood mixed with herbs. They're using this as medicine, right? This is medicine. In many religious texts, blood is demonized. These indigenous people, they're demonized. This is the devil's island, right? Like it's literally these people are painted in such a light to demonize this way of life. Now, even when you consider traditional Chinese medicines or Ayurvedic medicines, these have also strayed from nature slightly, ever so slightly. So modern herbology is not the same as what it was. Like they're mixing blood and herbs together and using it topically as medicine. So again, animal foods and animals in general have always been a source of medicine. The blood going to be one of the most pure things if it's from a pure animal, and we can use that medicinally when we use it properly, of course. So even herbs, people think, oh, take all these capsules of herbs. We're still missing the natural aspect. Like these people are literally mixing blood and herbs together. Like again, animal foods, animal parts of the animal, whether it be the gallbladder, whether it be the intestines, The hearts, the livers, the spleens, those are kind of the obvious ones. The brain, these things were consumed or used topically in medicinal fashions. They were understood to be the most medicinal. Look how fresh this is. There's no coagulation going on. They mix it with fresh wild foraged herbs. They connected with their food systems again. I mean, this doesn't get any closer to nature, right? And closer to medicine. So we need to get closer to our medicine as well, closer to our food. These are very important things that we overlook in the modern world when we order supplements and herbs off Amazon. Again, we're disconnecting from one, the natural way that we use herbs and medicine, two, disconnecting physically from our environment, from nature, and from our food systems and herbs. So always got to get back to nature.
On Choura Island, the witch doctors reign supreme. Only they can exorcise evil spirits.
Obviously, lots of modern clothes here. This is so interesting. Look at the whole trash sitting here. Like, this looks so staged, honestly. Look at this. Like, these are not traditional hats.
On
Look at their
Choura
clothing.
Island, the witch doctors
They're all standing around watching these guys do an exorcism. Like, this feels staged. Actually, it does.
reign
Let's
supreme.
watch.
Only they can exorcise evil spirits.
I don't think people understand, the power that there may be in some sort of service like that as well. And again, we disconnect these things from an exorcism that occurs kind of in the Catholic tradition. Something inside of me tells me that that's an adulterated ceremony, that the whole tribe is sitting there midday watching this happen. Like, again, they just happen to catch this on camera. It's total nonsense. Like, they're like, oh, let's get everyone standing around here. Like, this is kind of a production. Like, that looked like a production, rather than it being something middle of the night where there's a fire and there's chanting and community. That would be a much different thing. That kind of looked like that looked a little bit interesting. That looks suspicious to me, to be quite honest. Not to say that these types of things didn't happen, but I still think that there is power in it. But that looked kind of staged and fake to me.
This is the island of Great Nicobar. It is the only island of the Nicobar group which has rivers and meandering creeks. As we glided through the lush jungle, we were reminded that a Danish missionary first came here in 1831. It was he who discovered the inhabitants of the island, called the Champens.
1831 they were contacted. So this is about 100 years after contact. Interesting observation.
The Champens had the reputation of being a fierce tribe, but we did not find them so. Shy, yes, but otherwise more curious than hostile.
Seems to be a little bit more traditional. Lots of bloating going on here. I always find that quite interesting. There always seems to be quite a lot of bloating in some of the contacted primitive peoples.
The jungles in which the Champens live teem with wildlife, especially a profusion of insects and reptiles. The truth is that very little is known of the Champens. We do know that they know how to make fire, but apart from glimpses of their daily life, we know nothing of their history. Even in the case of this lizard, we don't know whether it is meant to be eaten or some parts of it used for medicinal or magical purposes.
Right down in there. Even the narrator understands that.
A pressure cooker, Champen style. Among the fruits of the forest, the pandanus is the staple diet of the Champens. The Champens, like many of the tribes of the Andaman and Nicobar Islands, are gradually dying away. Today they number barely 92. This is largely due to disease and ignorance. The Romantics speak of the wonder of the pagan life and would like to isolate these people completely.
I'm one of those people. We see kind of a clear picture here. They say that they're diseased, but again, the initial anthropologists understood that there was no disease in these people. You know, it's something that sticks out to me is like this is that's a whole lot of plant that's a whole lot of plant food, which I find quite interesting, you know. And there doesn't seem to be that many men around, so I'm not sure what's going on there. Um, but obviously when you think of traditional roles, um, unless they're out hunting or something like that would make more sense. But still, um, it's kind of curious and peculiar why, um, you know, there's not that many men around. You know, you'd think there'd be more of a balance going on. Probably, if there were, there'd be more animals being consumed. You know, this kind of explains maybe some of the bloating going on where there's too many plant foods eaten. Again, traditional anthropologists estimated 95% of the food system was animal based. You know, but again, nowadays when you're in the updated, contacted tribes, you know, you see a much different picture being painted.
The administrators want to help them. Indeed, if they do not get timely help, they will soon be extinct.
So again, wanting to help them, quote unquote, this is much after Rockefeller medicine. So I wouldn't be surprised if these people have been given vaccines, have been given antibiotics, etc. That wouldn't surprise me at all. When you hear of philanthropy, most often, you know, you're tampering with people's food source. Like if we brought them rice, if we brought them canned food in any capacity, I'm kind of keeping a lookout to see what I can see. But those are the things that completely throw off and alter the balance of these individuals. And again, moving away from that gold standard. Now, it seems like, you know, for the most part, they're still floor resting. Their movement patterns don't look terrible. There's quite a lot of bloating going on. They don't look overly healthy either. This doesn't seem like too much of a tribe. You know, it seems like it's not so balanced unless, you know, we're not getting the whole picture, which I'm sure is also true.
The answer, perhaps, is to protect them and to make the process of assimilation as gradual as possible, if and when they want to assimilate.
Again, like giving them the choice to come into modernity, it's kind of an interesting thing. Um, you know, obviously, like now in the modern world, when you look at like the Hadza or the Maasai, they're trying to live this more primitive lifestyle, and I think a lot of the elders are realizing that the reason that so many of them are diseased now is because they've strayed from their primitive ways, their traditional ways. So they're trying to conserve that lifestyle, but still you see videos of them trying cheeseburgers for the first time. Obviously, they're extremely contacted now. People bring them gifts, quote unquote gifts, which actually comes to their demise. And then once you have a taste of these things, often it's very easy to be wooed by modernity, by the guns, by the knives, the metalwork, the technology. And this just infiltrates and adulterates the tribes completely.
The
Again,
strangers
great floor resting. Um, you know, everybody's resting on the floor. There's no chairs. This doesn't look necessarily Goda, which is also an interesting point of thought. Sometimes we can be a little bit strict there. There might have still been some alterations movement-wise, you know, structurally when we talk about defects in birth due to diet being poor, due to other reasons that could be playing a role, that their bodies didn't develop properly, but still their facial structure looks generally, these two look a little bit younger here from what I can see, but um, still floor resting, very important, which is ideal for the human body.
have come, the stream flows. Soon the strangers will go away.
One thing about these like rowing postures,
Strangers will go away.
you know, it's very back chain dominant. You know, we're seeing the shoulders in front of the hips. We're seeing that good movement patterns, that rotation, that flow. something that we want to mimic in our modern movement training if we partake in that.
We leave behind the tribes of the Nicobars, who are of Mongoloid origin. We now approach the island known as Little Andaman. This island is the home of the Onge tribe. Most of the tribes of the Andaman group are of Negrito origin. According to the census of 1971, the Onges have dwindled to a mere 112 in number. This in spite of friendly contact with modern man.
I think that was just dirt on the baby here. As you can see,
This in spite of friendly contact with modern man.
Looking at the nails, they don't look terrible. Facial structure seems pretty good here. I mean, generally these people don't look terribly unhealthy, but there's still been contact by the census, right? Like the census. These are the things that are problematic. You know, once we have this contact, is there gifts being exchanged, which are, again, adulterating these groups of people? Obviously, again, adulteration, we have metal work going on here. Oftentimes, if there was metal work going on in some of these primitive peoples, we did see disease begin. Once we start smelting metalwork, you know, then we begin to have the heavy metals, unless it's being kept at bay with raw animal foods, increases in raw animal foods. But the Mayans, as we'll see in a future video, these were not actually the healthiest people because they had a lot of metalwork, they had a lot of smithing and mining going on, and they were post-agricultural, so they ate a lot of plants, right? And especially monocrop plants, right? So this started to introduce problems because the balance was completely thrown off. Back carrying the children, very important. Everything being carried on the back. All the gait looks pretty good here.
Whereas the Onge
straight feet, again, looks pretty Goda. Back chain dominance, that's very clear. Shoulders in front of the hips. Very, very good movement.
Men go out to hunt. The women roam the forests in search of roots and tubers.
Roots and tubers, again, more traditional way of consuming food. As we can see, there's a mud or clay on the skin here. Again, why it's important to be connected with the physical earth. Seems to be more balanced in this tribe. Probably a good indication of, you know, why they look slightly healthier than the last tribe. The men are obviously out hunting for animals, and we're getting some roots and tubers, which can be a part of the balanced diet.
The Onges have no notions of cultivating the soil and live off the land.
No agriculture. Very, very important. Once you see agriculture introduced, beyond, you know, understanding where food systems are. Like I know here, some of the native people, the Mi'kmaq people, they cultivated oysters. So that's a form of agriculture. But again, it was very in tune with the land. Like they would just see the bottom of a seabed and understand where this is. Same with certain berry plants. You know, they might boost the berries being, you know, planted or tended or cared for. Maybe they, you know, allowed for them to proliferate a little bit more, but it was still in accordance with nature, right? If you spent all of your time connected with the land, you'd have a very good understanding of where everything is, where your medicine is when you're foraging too. So
agriculture is unknown to them.
it doesn't look like a potato to me. So again, very different tubers and food sources. These are going to be actually high in nutrition versus our modern way of consuming plants. Obviously, with plant foods, cooked is often important, unless maybe you're using it medicinally. But again, you're mixing it with animal foods, raw animal foods. You're never using plants necessarily by themselves.
Whereas tobacco has now become popular,
Tobacco is popular, kind of in a way they were indicating that It's not necessarily grown there, so it sounds like it's probably something that's traded to them. Again, so they're likely smoking in unnatural quantities, which introduces some problems. This is a flip-flop. Again, going to be a confounding variable, metal pot. These confound kind of the results, which is why we might see some unhealthier habits. But what we do see really well in this tribe is pretty good movement postures, hips behind the shoulders. We can see that back chain dominance, floor resting, very good positions. Facial development doesn't look too bad either.
Consumption of alcohol, however, is unknown.
No alcohol, that's good. But they do have metal work, which does introduce metals into their food systems.
Until 50 years ago, they did not even boil their food because the concept of cooking was alien to them.
Bang, listen to that. Let's go back.
They did not even boil their food because the concept of cooking was alien to them.
So 50 years ago, they didn't cook their food whatsoever. They did not cook at all. Obviously, they had fire. They used it for warmth, but they didn't cook any of their food. This even looks quite raw.
Because the concept of cooking was...
See, obviously that's like very rare. If anything, it's just charred on the outside. Totally different way of consuming food. This isn't not bad either, but still, right? 50 years ago, they didn't cook their food whatsoever. This is what I'm talking about. So we don't have a gold standard here again. So these documentaries, these more modern documentaries, are not introducing any sort of actual evidence for a true primitive lifestyle, for a true return to nature. 50 years ago, zero cooked food. They didn't even boil their food, right? They didn't char their food. They didn't do anything. They ate, again, largely animal based, but they didn't cook any of their food.
Was alien to them.
So obviously they would have ate raw fish as well, which is a great source of nutrition.
Let alone a fishing net. Even a fishing line is unknown to the Ongis.
Pretty cool skill.
Let alone a fishing net. Even a fishing line is unknown.
Again, still you see good movement patterns, right? So when you talk about natural movement, you're still seeing back chain dominance, shoulders in front of the hips, pretty straight legs. Again, that pulling back in archery is a great thing to train rather than just blasting, certain rows or whatever. This is a more natural way of training the body, which is why they structurally seem pretty strong, except for, again, you do see a lot of bloating in these peoples, which is a common thing to see, which was not observed or documented by the old anthropologist upon first contact.
Known to the Ongis.
Even the use of nets and fishing lines kind of removes this natural movement pattern. They're literally fishing with bow and arrow, right? This is a much different way to connect with your food system than having a net. It creates a little bit of sedentary nature, which again confounds our understanding of their true lifestyle factors. Fish, it doesn't really get any healthier. This is something that was pretty much consumed around the entire world. Not often were there tribes that did not consume fish. I mean, it doesn't really make sense to not live near a water source. All food congregates around water sources, and then you have like an optimal amount of fish. Fish was so plentiful, it was consumed by nearly, if not every single tribe around the world. Maybe there were few peoples that just lived inland and didn't eat that much fish, but still you'd have waterways that could still have some freshwater fish.
The greatest delicacy.
Climbing, another great primal movement pattern to train. Very thin tree. This is an effortless climb. Most people, 99.99% of people would not be able to do this. So if you're talking about natural movement and training, the modern gyms are totally out. We want to get back to nature and train our bodies properly. This is one of the fundamental movement patterns that we have to train. And still, it has that spirality. It has the proper biomechanics for our bodies to be structurally sound and move optimally and without pain or injury.
For the Onge is honey. The bees do
honey, again, around the world, this was consumed, pure animal products. One thing, they didn't filter, they didn't, They didn't remove any of the bees, the royal jelly, the wax. They consumed these things whole, right? It wasn't just completely filtered, and I highly doubt that they're going to heat this up, even though they have access to the fire. But obviously it wasn't done 50 years ago when they didn't cook any of their food.
Do not sting the man because he rubs the juice of a special herb over his face and his hands.
Again, connection with the land, using herbs topically so they don't get stung by the bees. It's just a connection to the land. It's very simple. Even if they did get stung, bee venom therapy is a really common thing that's occurring in the modern world here. People are curing all sorts of disease with bee venom therapy. So it's very important, again, this holistic, right, return to nature. Getting stung by bees or insects, as long as they're not gonna kill you, right? And still, they had the methods of cure. They understood if a certain insect bit you, what they could do. And often it was based in, animal-based medicines as well. Sometimes herbs, often a mix. Look at him just mucking that. He's as happy as can be. I don't know how old that kid was, but obviously breastfeeding for a longer period of time than what we're told is ideal. I'm sure none of these women have problems with that either.
A simple expression of joy. One wonders whether our classical dances of today did not originate in this fashion thousands of years ago. Perhaps the most ancient hairdressing salon in the world, and it is all done with a seashell.
Again, that's lit, right? They're sharp in the side of the seashell, and they got pretty crisp hairlines as well. So again, connecting with these natural principles for hair care is another huge part of it. All these modern toxic shampoos are harming us like crazy. Like, that was a pretty crisp hairline.
In one respect, the husbands and the wives of the Onge tribe are amazingly different from so-called civilized people. They understand the beauty of stillness and silence. They are lovers
Don't need to talk all the time to be in a good relationship.
absorbed in eternal quietude.
Quite an interesting thing. Again, we miss this completely when we talk about the breakdown of our modern relationships. A physical connection like this goes a long way, right? No phones, no distractions, no TVs. Like, these are the practices that we miss when we talk about modern relationship issues. Obviously, there's a plethora of things going on, but we don't even have the basics. We don't even have basics like this. Again, the connection, right? Like, these are the things that we miss in the modern world. Or resting. No real fluffy memory foam mattresses either.
As our expedition approached the curiously called Interview Island, we wondered whether we would be able even to have a glimpse of the inhabitants called Jarwas. The Jarwas have been known to be the most fierce of all the tribes of the Andamans and the Nicobars. It is said that one who encounters a Jarwa doesn't live to tell the tale. No one in recorded history had ever encountered anything but poisoned arrows from the Jarwa tribe.
Again, doesn't escape me as being absurd. This is like a fight against modernity. I think some of these tribes, again, are more connected than we give them credit for. We're so quick to judge them morally, and this is one of the main problems that we have in anthropology, in our general understanding of the primitive person.
We were, to say the least, astounded to receive a spontaneously warm reception. Why? Was it because a dying tribe thought that outsiders could help them? Was it because we came with gifts rather than guns?
Gifts, again, going to be introducing huge problems to these people, right? Like they don't understand that they're literally the ones killing these people. You know, they say, oh, all these tribes are in so much danger. They're in so much danger. You know, they're dying, all the disease. We're literally giving them disease in the form of philanthropy, in the form of gifts. We're literally killing these people.
The truth is that we do not know. We don't know their language. We don't even know what they call themselves. The word Jarwa is used by other Andamanese to refer to the members of this tribe as the other people. What we do know is that in 1872, more than 100 years ago, it is recorded that a landing party was violently repulsed.
Like, literally bringing them electronics, radio frequencies, we're giving them metal gifts.
Repeated attempts at making contact had failed until 1974, when we were fortunate.
Even them listening to music is going to introduce some sort of problem into their understanding of reality, right? Like this is shaking psychologically and spiritually. We don't understand those effects.
In a sense, these smiling exchanges made us feel like pioneers among a
What a great set of teeth. Look at those teeth, actually pretty healthy looking facial development.
beautiful, lovable people. They were amazed to see long hair and beards. Is there a substitute for innocence and a natural breaking of barriers between human beings?
Even the way they dance is in alignment with natural movement patterns. You know, dancing is a very common thing in the primitive peoples, something that we miss out in the modern world. Has physical benefits from a movement perspective, probably from a lymph drainage perspective as well. So, you know, improving the circulation, improving the flow of the body. Also structural movement, gait patterns, you know, posture, biomechanics, optimal in that front, but also the spiritual and psychological benefits.
Although some expeditions had landed here, the Sentinelese had never been sighted.
So this is the North Sentinelese. Of course, these people are protected at this point. They're not contacted anymore, but obviously they've been contacted in the past.
We left gifts of coconuts, knives, lengths of cloth, a pig, products of the plastic age.
They gave gifts, products of the plastic age. You know what I'm talking about? They're poisoning these people. It's you know, and again, their intention might be in the right place, but this is an ignorance. This is a lack of understanding of the true causes of disease. These are the people that kill the indigenous, right? These are the people that kill the primitive person, spiritually, psychologically, and physically, right? So of course, knives, you know, might seem like a reasonable gift. Coconuts, pig, those are decent. Where's the pig from? Was it one of their pigs? It wasn't a wild boar from their local food sources, and they brought plastic. Absolutely absurd.
We withdrew and waited, but no one came. We stayed wide awake, for the sleeping hand fashions no pictures, the tired eye sees no clarity. What are those moving shapes? Are they human? At last, the first glimpse of the Sentinelese.
See the toes slightly pointed in here, standing pretty well in the columns, a little bit on this one side. Again, looks like straight feet. Gonna be good gait and posture mechanics here.
Is this a first step towards understanding a tribe never before seen by outside eyes?
So even if we were able to go in and study the North Sentinelese people as a gold standard, even though they're protected and so-called uncontacted, we know that they were still given the modern toxicities, which would introduce the confounding variables in their causes, true causes of disease. I think we just saw one of their little gifts. Yeah, look at that. A little, I don't know what that is, but it's totally made out of plastic, and it's dyed. I'm sure might be one of the most toxic things that has ever been produced in the history of mankind. Especially back in this time, at least now they try to make things so they don't break down very quickly. These would have broken down very quickly, off gas, tons of toxicity. So again, huge confounding variables. These are the types of gifts that they give these people, often targeting the children.
This tribe believes in total isolation. It will not tolerate a stranger.
Pretty good posture, pretty good gait. Look at that. Shoulders in front of the hips.
We were prevented from approaching the shore.
Again, more plastic.
We were prevented from approaching the
Plastic buckets.
shore.
Plastic baskets.
In his dream, the hunter's triumphant spear gouges the eye of the moon, and when he wakes, the victim is his love. A member of our film unit was wounded by one of the many arrows, each 2.5 meters long.
It's an insane arrow.
He will carry this scar till his death. But has this experience helped
Look, these guys are pumped. They love it, man. They're so pumped. They obviously have some sort of intelligence that we just are totally devoid of.
us to understand the nature of primitive man, or of modern man? The Sentinelese don't want to have anything to do with us. Are they right? Is the Stone Age preferable to the nuclear age? These ineffective arrows and spears, do they not convey some message from the past, which intellectual man has perhaps forgotten?
Also, let's just admit, like, that was an insane shot from the beach to hit someone on a boat. Crazy shot. Okay, we could see some of their gifts. Metal pots, it seems like. Again, metal in these days broke down much more than the metal that we have now. It's built in a different way. Often there was a lot of tin-based things. The stainless steel now is pretty rigorous. So again, it's a better alternative to Teflon, but still you're introducing the metals into our lives and bodies and systems inorganically. Plastic bucket there.
There is the sky and there is man. We have begun to understand the nature of the moon and of Mars and other planets. But have we begun to understand our own impulses?
See, we think that we understand things about the cosmos, about the moon, about Mars, about whatever. This is one of our problems psychologically. We think that we know so many things. We think that we're above these people. We think that we're better than them. We bring our religious beliefs, our preconceived ideas, our science and technology to them because we think that we're better than them. This is one of the main problems that we have psychologically and spiritually, which transcends our lives and actually causes quite physical ailments as well, right? This is what people do not understand in the modern world.
This is a story with a lot of mystery, and in many ways, our expedition has failed. Only succeeding generations may find the answers we seek. Until then, perhaps we have no choice but to leave it all to the islands, the oceans, and the currents of time.
Succeeding peoples will only face more problems, more adulteration, and less understanding of the gold standard. We actually have to go back further and discuss and study first contact to get a true understanding of the primitive gold standard. All right, that does it. 1974, Man's Search of Man, produced by Films Division by the government of India. So, obviously, what are the conclusions of this video? There are many. We've not seen a gold standard in these videos, in these documentaries. It is too modern. We've already adulterated them with our modern gifts. What we disguise as gifts, as philanthropy, is often the most harmful thing for these people. You know, and ever since the rise of Rockefeller medicine, I mean, these things have been tax write-offs, a way to paint themselves in a positive lens. Look at us helping those in the Stone Age, this primitive savages, you know. We disguise ourselves as being such good people, just another form of virtue signaling for, uh, you know, some sort of psychological or benefit, perceivingly, but in the end, it's absolutely not, right? We're missing the true essence of life, of nature, uh, and it's evident that in these peoples, they're missing that as well because we've adulterated them with our modernity, with our technology and science, with our preconceived ideas, even music, the introduction of the radio frequencies to them. All of these things adulterate the primitive gold standard. So when you look at these people and you say, oh, they're so diseased, you know, look at all them dying of disease. The diseases only came after man, you know, and it's easy to say, oh, the germs are to blame or this is to blame. And obviously, if you think that germs cause disease, you need to go watch other videos on my channel or maybe join the academy to learn a little bit more. But germs absolutely do not cause disease. They're not at the root. At the root is always going to be toxicity, deficiency, and trauma, whether it be physical or psychological. And once those are addressed, that's how you get to true health. So obviously we can learn a lot from this video. You know, there were some very clear points of evidence, you know, that cooking was a foreign thing before, you know, we adulterated them with that poor habit. You know, full raw animal-based diet before we came around. Obviously, they consumed a lot of plants. It's seemingly in this video in some tribes, you saw a lot of bloating. Facial structure and development did seem reasonably well. They said that people were plagued with disease, but we didn't really see it. When you talk about the use of medicine, it was clear that they used raw blood mixed with herbs. You know, the exorcism seemed a little bit staged in my mind. I mean, no one stayed the night. No one actually went in and lived with these people for months or years. So you didn't get a full account of their lifestyle and their habits. Again, so you're not getting a full picture of the primitive lifestyle. What we've kind of learned in this video is how we've adulterated them so that they're not the gold standard anymore. So the people that argue, oh, primitive people, they're not the gold standard, they're diseased, they're sick. We understand why, because we've been giving them plastic, we give them medicine, we give them all of these problematic things, toxins, modern toxicity. We're giving it to them and then they get diseased, right? So hope y'all learned something in this video. If you want more, join the Beyond Terrain Academy. That's the best way to support our work. Also for you to get an amazing amount of value in return. Learn about the true fundamental principles of nature, how to heal naturally, how to live in accordance with nature, practical applications, as well as true knowledge, true understanding, anthropologically, scientifically, logically. And from there, we could start to build something that is a little bit more in accordance with nature, the truth, and God. Appreciate y'all taking the time. Like, share, comment, do all that good stuff. Give us a subscribe down below as well. So we'll catch you in the next one.